George Floyd. Oh my God, George Floyd. Hi everyone, I'm Rajee Narinesingh, transgender activist, author, mystic, actress, reality TV personality. The truth is though, no matter how many titles are behind my name, there are many people in the world that just look at me as a deviant, crazy, transgender freak. And many of these people don't even care what I have to say. I'm sure the number of views on this video will reflect that. I'm going to get to George Floyd and how I feel about what happened to him and the whole chain of events that are happening as I speak. But I have to say this first. A few years back, I was speaking at Florida International University for a class on transgenderism and my life as a transgender person. And there was an African American woman that raised her hand and she asked me, what has been harder for you, being a person of color or being a transgender person? And before answering her, I thought to myself, like, can you really compare injustices? Is it right to even do that? Isn't it that all injustice is just horrible? But I knew what I had to say to her, and the answer was being transgender. You see, transgender people oftentimes don't even have the support of a community. Many trans people don't even have the love and support of their family. Imagine living in a world without the love and support of a family. I was speaking to a girlfriend of mine last night. She's also a transgender woman of color. And I said to her, I said, how do you feel about this whole situation? I asked her, how do you feel about George Floyd, what happened to him, and, the racial tension and uproar that is happening now? And she said to me, she said, girl, I feel bad about it, but she said, honestly, I'm numb. She said, look at all the injustice and discrimination that we endure from all races, all types of cultures and people. She said even our own community of color wants to beat us down because of who we are. She said, I'm numb. And I said to her, I said, my God, you're right. You are right. I mean, it just, for us, it's on so many different levels. I started to think about my life and all of the injustice and discrimination that I've endured. The beat downs, the physical beat downs, being pulled off of a city bus during rush hour with about 50 people watching and having 5 African American guys beat me up and say to me that the reason why I'm beating you up is because you're a faggot and faggots deserve to die. And no one did anything. No one did anything. The injustice has happened to us on so many different levels. And when you look around the world, transgender people are experiencing injustice and discrimination and beatdowns and even being murdered because of who they are. Even being murdered because of who they are. So many transgender women of color have been murdered in this country because of who they are. And videos are posted online of transgender women being beaten up, brutally beaten up. And some people think it's funny. Some people, they think good for them. They're freaks, We're freaks. Good for us that we're getting beaten up like that. And then there's some people that think it's horrible and they're sad about it, but don't do anything on our behalf. What happened to George Floyd is horrible. It's horrible. My heart goes out to him and his family. It is absolutely horrific what happened to him. Racism in this country runs so deep. When you have a country, America, the US of A, that was built on the backs of slaves. Slavery that lasted for a few hundred years. And then after it was abolished, then it was about another 100 years of Jim Crow laws in the southern states here in this country. It is deep. It runs deep. I'm glad they arrested that white police officer that murdered George Floyd. And I don't know if they're going to arrest the other three. And by the way, the other three officers, they're not white. They are people of color. They're men of color. Have you seen their pictures? They're not white. So beyond this whole racism issue that we're dealing with, we have to look at police brutality. No matter what race the policeman is, because it seems like despite what race they are, once they take that badge, they fall under this blue code of honor, and many of them cover up for each other, for the wrongs that each of them do. So that's another issue we have to look at. Anyway, I'm just touched by the outpouring from the world community. People all around the world protesting against systematic racism and protesting against what happened to George Floyd, his murder, and the murder of many African American men in this country by the hands of the police. But as I do this video, as I sit here before you, I can't help to think, if that person last week was a transgender woman that was being choked out and murdered, would the world care as much? Would the world be as horrified? Would the world be standing up the way it is doing now for George Floyd? Would the world be as outraged as people are? And sadly, I know the answer. I know the answer. And I'm very unhappy about that. I'm very unhappy about that. You see, what people do, what society does, is it places different types of value on different types of people. You know, the value of someone's life based on what a person is or who they are. That's what people do. That's what societies do. But I thought all life is valuable. I thought all life is precious despite who we are or what we are. If you're someone that cares, share this video. And more importantly, stand up for injustice, all types of injustice, racism, homophobia, transphobia, just all sorts of injustice. Stand up for it. Do something in your own way. I don't know what more to say. I don't know what more to say. I'm done for now.